In this video, we'll take a look at bibliographies in Chicago Manual of Style. The word bibliography might sound complicated when you first hear it, but it's very possible that you've actually created something similar for a paper in the past. A bibliography is a list of every outside source you use to write your paper, and it's similar to a works cited page in MLA or a reference list in APA. Now, to put it a little bit differently, a bibliography is a collection of all of the sources that you cited in your footnotes. So if a source appears in a footnote at any point in your paper, it should appear again in the bibliography. Images are exempt here, though. You do not need to cite images in your bibliography. This is what a bibliography looks like. And let's talk about the bibliographic entries first, because they're the most important part of the equation. So you might notice when you look at these that they're pretty similar looking to our footnotes. It's really important to note, though, that your footnotes and your bibliographic entries are not actually identical. While they use a lot of the same information, it's often in a slightly different order, or the punctuation might differ between the two of them. So whenever you're setting up your bibliography, resist the urge to copy and paste your footnotes here. It's not exactly what you need, and your instructor will totally be able to tell. Instead, always use the liberal arts writing guide when you're setting up your bibliographic entries, and similarly to when you were setting up your footnotes, you can find the type of source you were using and use the example as a template. Let's talk about formatting now. Your title will be centered and it won't be bolded, underlined, or italicized. Your bibliographic entries will be organized alphabetically by the author's last name, and they'll be single-spaced with a double space between them. There's one last thing I want to note here. You may have noticed that for all of these entries, the first line is justified to the left, but the second line is indented. And if any of these entries went on to be 3 or 4 lines, all of those lines would be indented too. This is what's called a hanging indent. You can set it up manually by just clicking on these lines and trying to indent them. Sometimes that works, but sometimes word processors really aren't crazy about it, so I'm going to show you a shortcut. First, highlight all of the entries in your bibliography. Then go up to Format, down to Align and Indent, and click on Indentation options at the bottom. From here, you'll select Hanging under Special Indent, and then click Apply. If you're working in Microsoft Word, you'll need to get into the Paragraph menu. You can usually get here by right-clicking, or by going to Layout, which should be an option at the top of the page. Let's review. A bibliography is a list of every source you used in your paper. So if you cited it in a footnote, you'll need to list it again in your bibliography. This does not include images, though. All entries are similar, but not identical to footnotes. So instead of using your footnotes again in the bibliography, always refer to the liberal arts writing guide and structure them correctly. Your bibliography should be the very last page of your paper. The title is Bibliography, and it's centered, it's not underlined, bolded, or italicized. Entries are single-spaced, but they're separated by a double space. Use a hanging indentation for all of your bibliographic entries. And if you have any problems setting up your bibliographic entries or with formatting, please reach out to the Student Learning Center. You can email us at learning@rimcad.edu, or you can self-schedule an appointment at rimcad.mywconline.com.